Hello again guys, Matt, David and Ali here, and a big thank you to all of you for choosing to get your gaming news here at Livewire. In today's video, we will be taking a look at the potential for For Honor DLC, and more specifically the different warrior legacies that they could include in the game. Now, over the last few weeks and months, you have brought us many suggestions of who you would like to see be included as a DLC faction. So we will be taking a look at all of your suggestions in the video. However, if you have more suggestions of what Warrior Legacy DLC you would like to see, be sure to comment your thoughts below.
To show your support for this series, please hit that like button. Let's try and hit 30 likes for this episode, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. So during the E3 Masterclass, the developers were questioned about the potential for more factions being included in For Honor in the future. The developers said they had nothing to discuss at this time and were focused on the 3 legacies in the game so far, at least for the release anyway. But they said, and I repeat,
"We are not talking about future content at this stage."
Now this tells us that there probably will be future content, and they are still to reveal what that is depending on how well the game launches, of course. So we thought it'd be fun and interesting to gather your ideas, as well as a few of our own ideas, on potential for more warrior legacies we'll see in For Honor. So let's get right to it.
So, a popular one for the For Honor community is seeing warrior legacies from the ancient world appear, such as the Greek Spartans, Roman legions, or Persian Empire for example, and we agree with all of these.
First off then, let's take a look at the Spartans. Around 650 BC, Sparta rose to become the dominant military land power in ancient Greece. Most notably in history, given its military strength, Sparta was recognised as the overall leader of the combined Greek forces during the Greco-Persian Wars. You know, with King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans.
This is Sparta!
You have to admit, it would be badass to see these disciplined, chiseled killing machines in game, even though they lost that particular fight.
Between 431 and 404 BC, Sparta was the principal enemy of Athens during the Peloponnesian War, from which it emerged victorious, though at great cost of life lost. Sparta's defeat by Thebes in 371 BC ended Sparta's prominent role in Greece, however it maintained its political independence until the Roman conquest of Greece in 146 BC.
The Spartan weapons were a well-honed part of the ancient world's premier war machine. Sparta's elite warriors trained from a young age, and unlike their contemporaries on the battlefield, being a warrior was the only career they would ever know.
Spartans! What is your profession?
In fact, their whole society was geared towards warfare. Every facet of their lives was aimed at increasing Spartans' military power. With the weight of an entire society behind these warriors, and their entire weight behind the point of their weapons, it should come as no surprise that Spartan weapons were also some of the deadliest in the ancient world.
The Spartan warrior's primary weapon was a spear called a dory. No, not the fish, but quite the opposite in a lethal long spear. Accounts of its length vary, but it's typically believed to have been between 7 to 9 feet in length. Spartan hoplite warriors also carried a short sword. This secondary weapon would have been employed if the crush of battle rendered a hoplite spear useless or if it was broken. Among most Greek warriors, this weapon had an iron blade of about 2 feet. However, the Spartan version was typically only 12 to 18 inches. The Spartan shorter weapon proved deadly in close combat where the battle was at its thickest.
The main purpose of the Spartan shield was defensive, however Spartans also used it to bash their opponents. This could be used to stun them, knock them down, or get some room to use another weapon. The shield could be used as a killing weapon outright, its weight and thin edge making it a superb blunt weapon. They were constructed out of wood with an outer layer of bronze. Due to its defensive nature, Spartans using it as a weapon could gain the advantage of surprise. Being clubbed to death by a heavy shield may even have been more unpleasant than being hacked apart.
So as you can imagine, the warriors of Sparta were certainly a force to be reckoned with, and have lived on in legend throughout the ages. It'd be great to see them as one of the DLC factions in the game, as it would provide a different feeling compared with the other warrior legacies, when instead we could rely on teamwork and disciplined close-quarter combat and have the use of multiple weapons.
Next up, let's take a brief look at arguably the most famous empire to ever have existed. We are of course talking about the Roman Empire. Undivided, the Roman Empire lasted from 20 BC up until 395 AD. Leading on from that, the Western Empire then lasted from the year 395 to 476. With the Eastern Empire ruled from Constantinople lasting well into the 15th century. Pictures of Roman legionnaires with their giant shields and imperial armour are well known, and it would be great to see them in For Honor as well. One of the greatest military mights to have ever existed certainly deserves a place in the game.
The soldiers of the Imperial Army were professionals who volunteered for 20 years of active duty and 5 as a reserve. The transition to a professional military had begun during the late Republic and was one of the many profound shifts away from republicanism. For Imperial Rome, the military was a full-time career in itself.
Roman legionnaires were equipped with a gladius as their primary weapon, along with a large shield to hold the line and create a barricaded shield wall. In these instances, large spears were also used to protrude from the shield wall and strike down any approaching enemy.
On the front of the helmet, about 3 inches above the rim, is a protrusion protecting the forehead. This was designed to prevent sword blows from penetrating the helmet and causing head injuries. The rear of the helmet also had a guard that protected the neck from sword blows. The body armour though, made from overlapping iron strips, were fastened with hooks and laces at the front and hinged at the back. These were held together by vertical leather straps on the inside.
This enables the soldier to be well protected and also be flexible enough to allow him to bend. The armour was strengthened by front and back plates below the neck, so still well protected yet able to remain agile. Roman legionaries would allow for a greater defensive and strong class for multiplayer, and the legacy itself has a lot of history and story, so it would be fascinating to see them implemented into the game.
So I think that we can all agree that the Roman Empire would make for a great addition in game, and it is a shame that they have not been included from the outset.
Moving on to a Middle Eastern empire then, with a legacy that is yet to be implemented into the game, the Persian Empire. An empire based in West Asia founded by Cyrus the Great, notable for including various civilizations and becoming the largest empire of ancient history, spanning at its maximum extent from the Balkans and Eastern Europe to the Indus Valley in the east. It is equally notable for its success modelled off a centralised bureaucratic administration, for building infrastructure such as postal systems and road systems and the use of an official language across its territories, and of course having a large professional army.
The ancient Persian warriors were soldiers for the Persian Empire during the phases of its military life. And a great warrior legacy class that could be easily implemented in For Honor is of course the Immortals, who are the most renowned ancient Persian warriors, feared for their mass scale of attack and the fact that if you were to kill one Persian warrior, another one would appear instantaneously, giving the appearance of course that they were indeed immortal.
The Persian Immortals were the heavy infantry for the Persian army, which was a far cry from the majority of Persian forces, which were roughly ununiformed, wearing a mix of styles, often dependent on what the individual warrior could afford to buy for themselves, as no weaponry was provided for them. The Persian warriors were later skilled in a wide range of weapons however, and later would themselves adopt some of the superior quality Greek weaponry.
For Honor though could certainly use with a Middle Eastern warrior legacy, and the Persian Immortals would be the greatest option to fit that role. Just look at the Immortals from 300, masked, mysterious and deadly. They would make for a great assassin class that one of our commenters Oliver requests here.
However, as pointed out by Mr. Coffee Guy in the lengthy and insightful comment, there's a legitimate problem with the new DLC factions from the ancient and classical ages, being that their armour, weaponry and fighting style would be eclipsed by the more technologically advanced medieval knights, samurai and Viking. He also suggests that India or China would make a good warrior legacy. China had many long-lasting and advanced warrior legacies and were the first to use gunpowder. It would certainly be cool to see their early grenades being used. Although they may seem too close to the samurai in terms of weapons and armour, and the samurai legacy tries to encompass all of Oriental Asia within its one legacy. Remember, this game is a medieval fantasy and it is not true to life.
As mentioned in your comment though, the Indian Whipblade sounds very cool. Something different from the other warrior legacies and a new style of combat of course. This is something I believe a new DLC faction should bring to the table. He also mentions Egypt being a viable choice, and other people have also asked for an Egyptian warrior legacy, given their mythology and history. However, I think this suffers even greater from an eclipse in technology than that of the Persian, Spartan and Roman choices.
Having a legacy, I believe, that would be hugely different from the other three factions, from a very different part of the world, and would have an interesting style of combat, would be Aztecan, Mayan or Incan warrior legacy.
When these armies clashed in battle, they used melee weapons including clubs, axes, stabbing spears and knives. The Mayan war club resembled that of the Aztecs, in that it was lined with obsidian blades on three sides. These 42-inch long clubs could stun, break bones or cut. They were even capable of cutting off a horse's head. So their weapons would certainly pack a punch, even against well-armoured warriors. I would just find it interesting and extremely different from the other warrior legacies in For Honor, and would certainly bring something new to the game.
Perhaps a warrior legacy from this region could be implemented as a DLC expansion that would also include a new extended campaign, where the resources of the lands the current legacies fight over have dwindled to a point where a new world must be sought after, and the other legacies search far and wide until they come across this new legacy. It would certainly make for compelling storytelling.
This has been a speculative look at the potential for other factions being implemented into For Honor as DLC. Please comment on your ideas below so we can discuss them further. Should any sniff of information from developers be released, we will be sure to cover it here on Livewire. As always guys, remember to hit that like button, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more For Honor news. Click on our faces to get to know us better.
Click here for our entire For Honor news playlist to catch up.
Or click here for our full Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands series.